Hi everyone! In this video I'll be doing an in-depth review of the Holo Taco Dark Rainbow collection. We'll be taking a look at swatches of all 7 shades in this collection, colour comparisons to other polishes in the Holo Taco range, and finally I'll show you how these polishes perform in a variety of nail art techniques, so stick around to the end of the video if you're interested in doing nail art with this collection. And without further ado, let's get started. The Dark Rainbow collection consists of 7 shades in a linear holographic formula. I'll have chapters for each shade swatch and for the nail art techniques in the description if you want to skip to a specific part of the video, but if not, here we go. The first shade I'm swatching is Crimson Void. This is a deep red burgundy shade. It's really great and vampy for autumn and for October for the spooky season as well. And I think that this will be really useful for nail art. Now my first impressions with all of the shades in this collection is that they are really pleasant to apply. They're self-leveling and I find I can do multiple brush strokes without any dragging, which is always useful because I am not the most efficient at applying nail polish. The first coat, depending on application technique, isn't usually fully opaque for me, but for all 7 shades I got full coverage in 2 coats. Now I'm applying a glossy top coat. I always use a glossy top coat with holographic polishes. Not only does a good quality top coat protect your manicure, but it also intensifies that holographic rainbow flare so you get the best looking manicure out of your application. Here's Crimson Void next to the red shade from the original Rainbow collection, Red Licorice, and the red from the Pastel Rainbow collection, Coral Chaser. And now on my hand I'm showing you Crimson Void on my middle finger, alongside some similar shades from Holo Taco's range. On my thumb I'm wearing Left on Red, on my index finger I'm wearing Red Licorice, on my ring finger I'm wearing I'm Over Brew, and on my pinky I'm wearing Naughty List. Next up is the orange equivalent shade in this collection, and it's called Burnt Bridges. This is actually a warm brown linear holo polish, and it's such a beautiful shade for autumn. Clearly the Dark Rainbow shade is more brown than orange, but I think it was a great choice for this collection, especially as it's being released in fall. I was really impressed with the linear holographic flare in these Dark Rainbow polishes. I think they're possibly even more intense than the holo flare in the original Rainbow collection. So I think the amount of holographic versus colour pigments have been really skillfully balanced in these formulas. Here's Burnt Bridges next to the orange shade from the original Rainbow collection, Orange Drink, and the orange from the Pastel Rainbow collection, Peach Tea. And now on my hand I'm showing you Burnt Bridges on my middle finger, alongside similar Holo Taco brown shades. On my index finger I'm wearing Orange Drink for comparison. On my ring finger I'm wearing Choco Holo, and on my pinky I'm wearing Magic Mustache. Next up is the yellow shade in this collection, Amber Apathy. This is a dark yellow shade that kind of looks like an antique gold in this formula, and I think it will be really versatile. Holo Taco doesn't have a lot of gold polishes, and this one is a great addition in a tone that we haven't seen before from the brand. Again, we have great coverage with this shade. Here's Amber Apathy next to the yellow shade from the original Rainbow collection, Lemon Sucker, and the yellow from the Pastel Rainbow collection, Lemon Spritzer. And now on my hand, I'm showing you Amber Apathy on my middle finger, alongside other yellow and gold shades from Holo Taco. On my thumb, I'm wearing Butterscotch Hop. On my index finger, I'm wearing Lemon Sucker. On my ring finger, I'm wearing Gold Play Button. And on my pinky, I'm wearing Frozen Bananas. Next up is the green shade in this collection. This one's called Lost in the Woods. This is definitely my favorite of the collection. It's a dark, kind of peacock green, and it's the perfect moody color for cooler seasons. The drying time on these polishes has been pretty great in my experience. As long as I don't apply it too thickly, I can start on the second coat about 5 minutes after applying the first coat. But they also don't dry so quickly that they start dragging while I'm still applying the polish. It's pretty much the perfect consistency, in my opinion. Here's Lost in the Woods next to the green shade from the original Rainbow Collection, Green Taffy, and the green from the Pastel Rainbow Collection, Mint Mojito. And now on my hand, I'm showing you Lost in the Woods on my middle finger, alongside other Holo Taco green shades. On my thumb, I'm wearing Monstera. On my index finger, I'm wearing Green Taffy. On my ring finger, I'm wearing Chameleon Coat. And on my pinky, I'm wearing Bring Me the Teal. Next up is the blue shade in this collection, Sunken Secrets. This is a really deep blue. It's so pretty, and I can definitely see this color being really useful for nail art designs. Now here's Sunken Secrets next to the blue shade from the original Rainbow Collection, Blue Freezy, and the blue from the Pastel Rainbow Collection, Sparkling Water. Now on my hand, I'm showing you Sunken Secrets on my middle finger, alongside some of the other blue shades from Holo Taco. On my thumb, I'm wearing Indigo Away. On my index finger, I'm wearing Blue Freezy. On my ring finger, I'm wearing Blue Ain't Slick. And on my pinky, I'm wearing Shady Navy. Next, we've got the purple shade in this collection, Violet Nightmares. What a great shade name, by the way. This is a stunning, deep, regal purple shade, and it looks so great with that holographic flare. Here's Violet Nightmares next to the purple shade from the original Rainbow Collection, Purple Slushy, and the purple from the Pastel Rainbow Collection, Lavender Syrup. And now on my hand, I'm showing you Violet Nightmares on my middle finger alongside other purple shades from Holo Taco. On my thumb, I'm wearing Indigo Away. On my index finger, I'm wearing Purple Slushy. On my ring finger, I'm wearing Rainbow Flood. And on my pinky, I'm wearing Purple with Envy. The final shade of this collection is Dead Petals. This is a darkened magenta shade, kind of reminiscent of dark red wine. It's another quintessential autumn color, and it's actually a color that I wear a lot in my clothes, so I'm definitely a fan of this polish. Here's Dead Petals next to its equivalent shades from the original Rainbow collection, Magenta Jelly, and from the Pastel collection, Pink Fizz. And now on my hand, I'm showing you Dead Petals on my middle finger, alongside some similar shades from Holo Taco. On my thumb, I'm wearing Rainbow Flood. On my index finger, I'm wearing Magenta Jelly. On my ring finger, I'm wearing Cat's Evasion. And on my pinky, I'm wearing Plum Luck. As a side note, there has been quite a lot of discussion about Dead Petals being very similar to Crimson Void. Let's take a moment to chat about that. So under my video lighting, which is just 2 desk lamps, here they are side by side with Dead Petals on my index and ring fingers, and Crimson Void on my middle and pinky fingers. Under this light, I can distinguish each one, but personally, I do wish they were a little bit more different in shade. There are other lighting conditions that will actually make them seem more distinct from each other though. I have painted some swatch sticks with each colour, and just having them in different lighting, to my eye, in certain lightings they do become much more different. Now this is also going to be affected by differences in colour perception. For example, some people seem to kind of see these as identical, whereas others don't see them as similar at all. Obviously, I'm kind of in the middle. I do see the difference, but I wish they were more different. I do really like them both, but I think if they were just a bit further apart in shade, I would have been really happy with them. What do you think? Let me know in the comments. So here are all 7 shades side by side. You can see that they work well together as a combination, but they're all individually really beautiful polishes as well. And here are all 7 with a matte top coat, so you can just see the base shade of each one without that holographic flare. Next up, I'm testing these polishes with nail art techniques. I tried them out for sponged gradients, stamping, and water marbling, so let's see how they perform. To do a sponged gradient, I'm using a sponge from Holo Taco and trying out a full rainbow gradient. I'm taking care to overlap the colours on the sponge, which will allow them to blend. I started off with 1 coat of amber Apathy on the nail that's been left to dry for a few minutes. This will help the sponged polish adhere to the nail. So I'm dabbing that on. I found that doing 2 coats of the sponge gradient was perfectly sufficient for full coverage. The final look is great. The polishes have blended really well and they have great opacity with this application method. Next up, I wanted to see how these could be used for nail stamping. The original Rainbow collection was really great for nail stamping. I use it all the time, and I have a demonstration of this in one of my older videos. It's linked up in the cards. So I did have high expectations for this collection as well. I'm using this stamping plate from Moyu London, which I've listed down in the video description. I'm using a collection of designs with a lot of different line thicknesses to test how well the designs pick up. I'm stamping them over nail tips that I've half painted with 1 coat black and half painted with not milky white, so that you can see how the colours show up in stamped designs. They are stamping really well. The only issues I ran into were, in some cases, if I didn't work fast enough, the polish had dried a bit before I could pick it up with the stamper, so I haven't managed to get all parts of the design picked up. Now, since these aren't dedicated stamping polishes, this is pretty normal for standard polishes, and if I work a bit faster, I can usually improve the pickup, or I can add a little bit of nail polish thinner, which will sometimes help them not dry quite so quickly. Overall, I'm really impressed with their performance for stamping. The colours are still distinct over both black and white backgrounds, and that holographic flare is super obvious over the black. Finally, I'm going to show you how these polishes work in a water marbled design. So I start by applying drops of the polishes one by one into a cup of filtered room temperature water in a bullseye pattern. These drops are floating and expanding on the water, which is exactly what we need for water marbling. And I would definitely recommend building up the bullseye as much as you can. This makes the polish layer a bit thicker and ensures that they'll look true to colour when they're on the nail. If it's too thin, it will look sheer. Once I've gotten as many layers of polish into my bullseye as I can, I'm dragging a toothpick into the centre just to create some basic loops, and then dunking my prepped nail tip into the part of the design I want, and using a toothpick to clear away the excess polish from the surface of the water before I pull the nail tip back out. I decided to create a whole set of press-on nails using the Water Marble Dark Rainbow polishes, and I used a base of not milky white on the nail tips to ensure that the colours really pop. I am so happy with how these turned out. I think they were really easy to work with and they look amazing, especially topped with the glossy top coat. So now it's time for my final thoughts. Apart from what I discussed earlier regarding the similarity between Crimson Void and Dead Petals, I am super impressed and I'm really happy with this collection. The Holo Taco linear holographic formula is one that I turn to extremely often for nail art, and I think these new shades are absolutely perfect additions to my nail art toolkit. In addition, they're all absolutely gorgeous as full manicures, and they're really easy to apply. Now I'd like to know what you think. Do you have these polishes and what do you think? Or are you still thinking about getting them? Let me know in the comments. If you liked this video and thought it was helpful, please give it a thumbs up and make sure you're subscribed because I have more reviews and comparisons that I think you'll really enjoy. Thank you so much for watching and I'll see you next time.